The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's November the 24th, 2025. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined once again this morning by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day, presented today by Modello. If you are a Canes fan and a passionate one, then you deserve a Modello. And we'll talk a little bit more about Modello later on in the show. But first, Matt, I want to talk a little bit about Saturday's game at Virginia Tech. I would say a standard Miami Hurricanes adventure. I mean, it's amazing to me how these games just take on lives of their own every single week. And this one certainly was not an exception. So Shannon Dawson, amazing game plan, I thought. It was Virginia Tech, but they were playing very hard. He had a great game plan, as he often does for most games, quite frankly. I know some fans are on him a little bit right now, but he usually comes out with a really good opening script. It's when he burns through that script that the same issues start coming up over and over again. And this goes back to really 2 seasons, and it's something that they have to address. I mean, it has to take on an urgency inside the program because they can't accomplish their goals if they don't. And that's going to mean you're going to have games like, the SMU game and the Louisville game where you only score 20 points and you lose. Or you're going to go into a game like Virginia Tech on Saturday where you're trying to put an exclamation point on things. And I know Mario made some comments after the game about, his, kind of expressed a little disdain for the thought of style points or whatever. But this is the world that we live in today. And style points at this time of year matter when you have put yourself in a position to make them matter. And had they not lost to SMU and Louisville, style points would be totally meaningless. It wouldn't matter. You just win your games, and you're going to be in the ACC championship game, and you're going to be in the playoff. But you lost those games, so now style points matter in a big time way. And the thing that I think that we have to sort of reconcile here this morning on Good Morning CaneSport is: did they accomplish their goals of style points, whether they acknowledge them or not? And it's crazy because they scored on the first 6 possessions that they had the ball in the game. But Virginia Tech was limiting them to that number of possessions because they were running the ball so effectively. And it's like crazy things surface. Like, how do you explain this? And I know I'm getting a little long-winded here, Matt, and I'm going to let you talk for your typical 15 minutes here in a second. But I'm kind of like setting the plate for you. Miami comes into the game with one of the best run defenses in the country, okay? And Virginia Tech stampedes them for 194 yards of rushing yardage. I mean, unbelievable. Like, how does that happen? You have, you're very motivated. Your offense is playing lights out. You got to put on a good performance. And now suddenly you can't stop the run. And that allowed Virginia Tech to control the clock quite a bit. And I'm trying to find the time.
Miami had the ball 33 minutes and 29 seconds. They had a massive time possession edge. And you're missing a big piece, but I'll talk about it in a minute.
All right, well, I'm going to let you tear what I'm saying apart. But they only had 8 possessions in the game, which is a little low.
Yep.
And
very low.
Part of it was their own offensive drives were going 75 yards, 14 plays, 75 yards. That chews up clock. So there were not a ton of possessions in the game. And so now you're at the end of the game, and you're only up by 10, and that's not putting the ribbon on the way you came in wanting to for the committee. So instead of taking a knee at the end of the game, you're throwing down the field to Malachi Toney and getting a tack-on touchdown at the end. I don't know how much that's going to help. We're going to find out here on Tuesday. But If somebody's watching the game, they're not giving that extra 7 points a lot of credence. It will help if somebody didn't watch the game and they're just looking at the stats and the score, which might be the case with a lot of those members of the committee. But, all in all, they got the win. They kind of won big. The line was 18.5. They won by 17. So that's taking care of business. You certainly don't want to be negative about it. And had it come under the circumstances that I mentioned earlier, where you won SMU and or Louisville, and style points don't matter, all you got to do is win, you would say, okay, solid effort. We won by 17, and you move on to what promises to be a much tougher outing next weekend against Pittsburgh. But Matt, you tell me, did as much as they want to discard the notion of style points, I think you and I probably agree that they matter at this point. And did they accomplish style points with the victory Tech on Saturday?
I mean, this is funny. Like, everyone's focusing on style points and style. Notre Dame won 70-7 or whatever. But the truth is, Miami desperately needs teams ahead of them to lose. It's the style points, I guess, to keep them where they are, maybe. But like, they could win by 100 points their next few games if the teams in front of them, like in the top 10, Alabama specifically and Notre Dame specifically, don't lose, or if Oklahoma doesn't lose, that's a problem no matter how many points you score. So like, everyone that's fixated on these style points, and by the way, if you are fixated on style points, and I understand why you would be, because if you're playing a bad team, why wouldn't you just run it up? There's no harm to doing that, right? I mean, why wouldn't you? It makes sense. I was joking on the message board yesterday that Miami was confused. The basketball team thought that it had to have style points and not the football team, But here's what happened, okay? Mario Cristobal bemoaned after the game that they had, like you said, very few possessions and this and that and the other thing. But they did that to themselves. If they wanted to come into the game and if their goal was to win by 50 points, they probably could have won by 50 points, right? You saw in the opening series, guys were not even covered down the field. They never went back to that, right? Do you remember those first two plays, I think, on the first series? They didn't even cover guys on 15, 20-yard routes down the field. Like, Shannon Dawson had found something that was totally confusing, and he never really went back to it, or at least they didn't try it again that I saw them throw those routes. They sort of went, again, it is a little bit of a shell. I know that they threw more intermediate passes. I know they threw more deep passes. But if you're trying to get style points, and again, I don't know if they had to, honestly. I think they're still going to be, in that 13th range.
Listen, they had to feel like they had to, or they wouldn't have tacked on the touchdown at the end. Right?
Well, if you beat a bad team by 20 points or by 30 points or by 50 points, I don't know that moves the radar. They're not going to have moved up probably ahead of anybody by beating a bad team. You got to beat good teams by a wide margin. Beating bad teams by a wide margin, I don't know that impresses anybody. These people aren't stupid. I mean, they are stupid on the committee, but they're not that stupid, But anyway, Mario sort of shot himself in the foot if he was trying to get style points, because Miami ran 66 plays. Virginia Tech ran 65 plays. And Miami had the ball for 33 minutes and 29 seconds to whatever it be, 26 minutes and whatever. So in other words, Miami was just huddling and running clock and running. They were 9 for 15 between third and fourth downs. They are the reason why they had so few possessions. And Mario's like, we weren't able to get many possessions. You weren't able to get many possessions because that's what you did to yourself. Virginia Tech didn't do that to you. You did it to yourself. So don't come to me after the game with your quotes about how we just weren't able to get a lot of possessions because of, Virginia Tech was able to do this and that. Like, no. You did that to yourself, and you had 14-play drives and 15-play drives because you didn't want to push the ball down the field, and you converted a lot of third down and fourth downs, and you were huddling and letting the clock run down under 10, 15 seconds every time, whatever, and the game just ran out on you, So could Miami have run 80 plays in the game? Yeah, because they know how to run a pace offense. They didn't do it once, right? And that's okay. Like, I don't think they're going to be punished for even if they won by 10 points. I don't think they would have moved down. Vanderbilt might move up ahead of them, but remember, Miami moved ahead of Vanderbilt because Vanderbilt had a bye, and Miami beat a bad team badly, right? And now Vanderbilt beat a Kentucky team that's not as bad as Virginia Tech, and they beat them badly. And so they're just back where they were sort of before the bye weekend. Like, that doesn't bother me. And Utah should have lost, so they moved behind Miami. Like, that would have happened anyway, right? As long as Miami didn't, really almost lose, okay, which they weren't going to do to Virginia Tech. So, yeah, the key isn't the style points to me. It's nice to have them, yeah. great if you do have them. But if you win games, the teams you need 2 or 3 teams ahead of you to lose anyway, right? And that's what everyone should be focusing on. That's the key. Like people are posting on different message boards that I read, like I'm predicting right now Virginia's going to lose and we're in the ACC title game. Like people don't understand the system because it's super confusing. You need a degree. You need to have taken multidimensional calculus, which this guy took. And by the way, failed out. I had to drop the class at Tufts, and then I took it at Nassau Community College and got an A. Is that an A? I don't know. However you do an A. I don't think you can. But like, you know, people are saying, you know, what is, you know, what's the situation with the playoffs, with the ACC title game? And, you know, you could do the math all you want, but like, unless you resurrect Einstein, like we're literally relying on AI. Nobody knows. Everybody from, you know, every network, national network is just plugging different scenarios into literally computer programs, which are accessible on the internet, to see the scenarios by which Miami wins. And there's not many of them for the ACC. And in the playoffs, it's still pretty clear what has to happen. You know, they need to be in the top 10, maybe top 9 if BYU wins its conference title game, assuming BYU wins next week. And then Texas Tech's probably not going to drop a lot. And the thing that also fans are confused about, and I am too for that matter, the committee says they don't want to punish teams that lose their conference title game, okay? But I don't know what that means. Like, if BYU's 1 spot ahead of Miami and loses to Texas Tech in a close game in the conference title game, I expect Miami to be ahead of BYU. I just do. If Alabama, on the other hand, loses a close SEC championship game with Georgia, I don't think they should drop. Like, you know, because
right. You're so right. I can't believe I agree with you. You're right. You're 100% right. It depends on what you're talking about.
Right. This should be the goal of any playoff committee. Get the 12 best teams by rule that you're allowed to get in there. Okay. And if you have to take an ACC team or 2 group of 5 teams, which is the rule, right? 1 group of 5, 1 ACC, or 2 group of 5s in this particular case, those are 2 of your teams. Okay. And 2 of your teams are going to suck. Okay. Pretty much. Good luck to them. But the other 10, you take the best 10 teams. Like the politicking, like Utah's not one of the best 10 teams. BYU's not one of the top 10 teams. If they win their conference title game, fine. But they're not one of the top 10 teams. And if Oklahoma loses a 3rd game, Oklahoma's lost 3 games. Sorry. If Oklahoma beats, who are they playing? Texas or Texas A&M? Oklahoma's playing somebody really good this week. Let me take a quick look here. Oklahoma is playing, oh no, they're playing LSU. Sorry. They're going to be, that's not what I was talking about. Sorry. I'm talking about 2 teams behind Miami. Sorry. If Texas beats Texas A&M, which is number 3 and probably will stay number 3, or if Michigan, Texas,
Oklahoma only has 2 losses, Matt. They don't have 3. But
yeah, I didn't mean Oklahoma. I was talking about Texas. Yeah, Texas.
Yeah, they're
and Michigan, right? So if Texas has 3 losses but plays the schedule they played and they beat number 3 Texas A&M next weekend, and they're 17th right now, and Miami's 13th, let's say, or 6th. I guess Georgia Tech moves down, so 16th and 13th, something like that. Do they move up 3 spots by beating the number 3 team in the country? And are we in the situation last year where we have a 3-loss team ahead of a 2-loss Miami? Can you imagine if they do that to us? Or what about Michigan? What about Michigan? 2 losses. What if they beat Ohio State, the top team in the country? Not that that's ever going to happen, but what if? They're going to move ahead of Miami in my estimation. That's what they're going to do. So there's still a lot that needs to play out. It's not as clear as just have these teams lose ahead of us. We need teams behind us probably to lose. Certainly Michigan, right? So it's very complicated. You probably need 4 teams to lose in the last week, plus maybe the conference title game with BYU. Alabama, I don't know if they would fall behind Miami with a loss, depending how it looks in the SEC title game. So again, a lot has to happen. And to your point of style points, like Miami can't be like Utah and almost lose to Pitt. Like that's for sure. If style points means almost losing, then yeah, Miami can't do that. But if Miami controls the game, wins by 10 points on the road, even a touchdown on the road, and they controlled the whole game, that's going to be more than enough. More than enough. As long as there's not a statement win by a Michigan or you know or Texas or something like that. So you know it's a little complicated, but that's sort of where we're down.
Let me say this, okay? You know you poo-poo the style points thing and whatever, but
I don't poo-poo it. I just say it's more important. We need losses. It doesn't matter how many points you win by.
Didn't Utah win and drop? Did Miami pick up?
That's what I said. You can't almost lose. Utah lost that game. I hate to tell you. The other team, I take it back. The other team beat themselves.
Yeah, and they gave up.
Utah had lost that game. Utah had lost that game. So again, the committee's not stupid. They don't want a bad team in the playoffs.
We haven't seen that yet. Right now, all we've seen is the AP and coaches polls. We haven't seen what the committee's going to do with that. We'll find out.
Unless that Utah guy who's on the committee like has some secret videos of these guys like doing.
He'll be lobbying them. He will. He'll be lobbying them.
He will be.
He will.
By the way, he has to recuse himself, but they're friends, right? So I'll do you a favor, you do me a favor.
I recuse myself. Yeah, I have a lot of confidence in that system.
Right. If Utah and Vandy are both ahead of Miami, then it's over. I mean, it's just over because Utah doesn't play in a conference title game. They're not going to lose to Kansas. Then it's going to be over, right? They can't. I can't imagine they'll do that. But yeah, if Miami winds up, what would be 14th? I can't see that happening. I think they're aren't they 13th?
They're 13th in the polls.
They're 13th now, but if they fall behind Vanderbilt and Utah, they'd be 14th.
Yeah, we'll see what happens on Tuesday. I don't know that they'll fall behind Vanderbilt, but we'll see. We'll see.
Utah's already ahead of them, so Vanderbilt moving ahead of them make them 14th. Utah's got to move below them. Vanderbilt, I'm not sure that they're going to move Vanderbilt ahead of Miami. I'm not sure, but if Vanderbilt beats Tennessee, then who knows? And people are like, oh, they won't take six SEC teams? I haven't counted, but they don't care. They don't care. People act like they have to take two ACC teams instead of all these SEC teams. They're looking at resumes. They're not counting SEC teams and saying, oh, that team's out. It's not like there's some rule that fans seem to think that they can't take a certain number of SEC teams. What they won't do is take a team that doesn't have as good a resume as another team. At least that's what they say they won't do. And right now Miami
take 4 from the. I just hope they take 4 from the SEC. I know they're going to take.
What I'm trying to say is people are fixing on this number. There's no number. There's no number other than the fact they have to take 5 conference champions. That's the only number they care about. Other than that, they're taking the best teams. Because can you imagine the last week they drop an SEC team because we had too many SEC teams. They have to explain it to the media and to the fans. So people are acting like, oh, they'll just do it. They'll just drop the SEC team. If that SEC team wins its last game and was ahead of other teams and they just drop them out of the playoffs, how do they explain that exactly? Like, it doesn't make any sense. They can't do it. So they would have already had to have done it. So if Vanderbilt is ahead of Miami and Vanderbilt wins against Tennessee and Miami wins against Pitt, and they're both similar style wins, they're not going to just magically drop Vanderbilt behind Miami. Like, that's a massive problem also. So yeah, Vanderbilt's ahead of Miami. We need them to lose. Miami needs to win. We need Alabama or Notre Dame to lose, or Alabama in the title game to lose. Potentially, it might be enough. Need BYU to lose this title game. There's just a lot. It's just a lot, and it's a little frustrating because I feel like Miami probably should be a little higher with its resume, but they're just like stuck with all these other teams and not getting much respect. And the committee said it's because of the 2 losses, which is sort of annoying. It's not the quality wins. Everyone's saying, oh, but now, now that SMU, they lost a quality team to SMU. That's what, 25th? It's 25th in the coaches poll or AP poll or whatever. Maybe it'll be ranked, maybe it won't be by the committee, because honestly, SMU's only win is against Miami. Like, they haven't beat anybody. But if they are ranked, then maybe that helps Miami negate one of its bad losses, right? But again, that Louisville loss now becomes worse. And then what if SMU loses next week? Which Miami sort of would need to have happen for a whole bunch of things to happen to get to the ACC title game. Like, fans won't even know who to root for. It's like when you have 5 different fantasy football teams and you're playing against your own players, right? Like, one of your teams, you have Josh Allen, and a team you're playing in a different league has Josh Allen against you. It's just annoying. Like, I don't know how else to explain it, but.
Real quick, tell us, for the people that still care. I mean, we've kind of talked about the college football playoff, and we'll see what the committee does Tuesday, and we'll talk about it later in the week. But tell us what needs to happen for Miami to get to the ACC championship game.
Oh, the ACC championship game. Okay. So there are some scenarios for it to happen, and it's super, super weird. Like, I ran into a family friend at Starbucks yesterday, and he starts asking me about it, and his wife's like, leave him alone. And she says to me, he's obsessed. He won't stop talking about it. The scenarios, the groupings. Okay, so basically, again, you have to run this through a computer simulation, which I've been doing for God knows how long. The best chance for this to happen, okay, the best case scenario, the easiest to have happen, even though it involves Virginia Tech upsetting Virginia, which again, double-digit favorite. Good luck with that. But but SMU's also a double-digit favorite, right? So you need one of them to lose probably. So in this scenario, SMU beats Cal, okay? Virginia Tech beats Virginia at Virginia. And then you also, in addition to that, besides Miami winning, you need Wake Forest to beat Duke, which I know sounds stupid, but there's all these common opponents and win percentage things when you get way down to these tiebreakers for the ACC, and it's just so stupid. All right, so that's the best chance because it's the simplest. That's just 3 different games. Another scenario would be Cal beats SMU, which is the opposite, right? So instead of SMU beating Cal, now Cal beats SMU. And now instead of Virginia Tech beating Virginia, Virginia beats Virginia Tech, right? So now either of those happen. If either upsets happen, there is a scenario. In this scenario, with the upset being Cal beats SMU, you now still need Wake Forest to beat Duke, but you also need Syracuse to beat BC and NC State to beat UNC. Now they could all happen, but those 5 confluence things happening, like if you go and do a parlay with those 5 games, predicting they're all gonna, win straight up, you'll make a lot of money. You'll get like 200 to 1 odds.
I'm not going to even ask you to explain why all those games matter.
It's all the common opponent percentages.
It's insane. Crazy. I mean,
because you end up with 5-way ties, 6-way ties.
To try to keep up with it.
It's insane.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and guess what? There might be a scenario or 2 I missed. But like they're so ridiculous, these scenarios, that I don't even know how the ACC is going to figure it out. They probably use these programs also because it's so dumb. And what I suggested on the message board yesterday, I said this is ridiculous. So like, well, you have to have the ACC title game because otherwise, what are we playing for? I said, here's what you're playing for. I said, have an ACC regular season just like they do. Crown an ACC regular season champion, right? The whole season, that team wins whatever tiebreakers or didn't lose a game in the ACC. They're your champion. They get in the playoffs, whatever the hell you want to do with them. I don't care. Make it a 16-team playoff and no more conference title games. It's pretty obvious and it's pretty easy, right? Now you're not punishing anyone for losing their conference title. It's all based on the regular season. Like, it seems pretty clear to me and easy to do. And, I hope that they listen to this show because it's so dumb not to do what I just said. It makes perfect sense to listen to this idiot instead of those idiots.
Man, I'm just going to go to the Pittsburgh game and worry about the Pittsburgh game. I'm not going to get caught up. If they don't beat Pittsburgh, none of it matters anyway. Yeah. So, and that's a noon game. So I'm going to go to the Pittsburgh game, focus on that. And then, 7 o'clock at night or whatever, I'll take inventory. I'll let you take inventory and tell me where things stand because it's the whole thing's insane. Like it's really beyond.
And you remember it used to be like we'd argue over, who should be the number 2 team or who should be the number 4 team. Now it's who should be the number 10 team because 11 and 12 just are getting in automatically. Who should be the number 10 team? It's like so ridiculous, and they just can't get out of their own way with this stuff.
Insane. All right, so let me go back to one of the big picture issues I brought up at the beginning of the show because this one really, really, really is bugging me. So you get 273 yards of offense in the first half. Look great. Score on every time you have the ball. Yeah, you had to kick a couple field goals. Instead of touchdowns, of course you would want them all to be touchdowns, but you scored on every possession. You had a few really nice drives of 75 yards. You had 273 yards of offense in the first half, okay? Then you come out in the second half and you have basically about 100 before that last play that, honestly, I mean, they should have just taken a knee. I get the style point.
You just said they need style points.
Yeah, they do, but to me, that's not a style point. Like scoring on the last play of the game with, what was it, 14 seconds?
Well, let me ask you something. If they had run for the first down instead of being 4th and 1, do they throw in the end zone the next play? Or do they run the ball again and just keep running it and run out the clock? I don't know what Mario was trying to accomplish. I don't know because
he's trying to make the score look respectable. A 10-point win at Virginia Tech isn't allowing anybody.
Yeah, but remember that entire drive he was just running, and not throwing the ball that much. So it wasn't like an urgency. Like we got to get another touchdown. It didn't feel like it until the last 4th down pass. And he was asked about it after the game, and he said like he didn't want his guys getting beat up, and they were playing to stop the run and screw them type of thing. So
and they had all their starters in the game.
Yeah, right. No, that's true. No, you're right.
I mean, the plays just weren't working, but but that bothers me because this is a pattern now that we've seen over multiple seasons. That Matt, I can't explain it. Like, I don't like. I'm not going to sit here and say that the base offense of the Miami Hurricanes is horrendous and they can't score using their base offensive plays. And that's proven by the fact that after they run through their script at the beginning of games and they get to their base offense, things always break down and they don't end up with enough points or enough yards or whatever. And there is a pattern, just the ones I mentioned in my column this weekend.
I mean, you're talking about this year or every?
Well, I'm talking about Syracuse last year. You blew a
year.
3-touchdown lead. Okay, you came out like gangbusters.
Well, they became too conservative, but this year, I honestly think.
Point. Did they become too conservative again yesterday?
No, I think the problem this year is different. I think the problem this year is their offensive line is not good at run blocking. I mean, it's pretty clear at this point. Like, they're just not good run blockers. I don't know if they don't want to do it or they're not physical enough.
And the whole philosophy is built around that run blocking.
Right, and they're fantastic at pass protection, but their run game has been very inconsistent. This game against Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech, they're not a good defense. But if you look at the yards per carry for Miami, it was 2.8.
80 yards, 30 carries.
Yeah, but yards per carry is 2.8.
2.8, I think it was.
I think it was 2.8. And if you look at the yards after contact that the Miami running backs, actually, let me call this up real quick. If you look at the yards after contact that the Miami running backs had, in other words, they get hit and they gain this many yards on average, right? 2.24. So they were averaging under 0.6 yards per carry before getting hit by somebody on the defense, which means you're not opening holes, you're not pushing the other team off the line of scrimmage, right? And this is Virginia Tech. This is the Virginia Tech defensive line. Like, Pittsburgh's linebackers are scary good, okay? And they're up on that line a lot and pressuring you. The Pitt defensive linemen are okay. They have one really good guy. The other ones are okay, but they're a little short at tackle. I think they have like a 3-tackle rotation right now. They're beat up at tackle. So, but that's going to be a much bigger test. And I don't know. I can't put my finger on what the problem is. I do know that part of it could be that, in particular, like they're sort of predictable with it runs up the middle, right? And I don't think James Brockermeyer is a physical guy. Okay. Inez Cooper, I think, is very good, but for whatever reason, he's a little not explosive. Like, he's just not explosive in the run game in terms of just bang and getting guys and shoving them back. And then you get the long, lanky guys like Samson Okunlola. He's a tackle playing guard, right? When you're long, lanky, and you have those long legs, it's very hard to be explosive in the run game. You're much easier for you in the pass game. And then you got the long, got a 6'8", 6'9" tackle. Who's going to be when you look at him, you say he's going to be good at pass protection more so than run blocking, right? And Mawanoa has been, shockingly not great at run blocking because he should be great at both. So I can't even explain that one. But if you look at their grades in run blocking and their grades in pass protection on the season, it's a massive difference. And in this game, it was a massive difference. Not that the grades mean much. I know fans are like, oh, the grades are stupid, but we don't have much else that we can base it on. And when you look at the run blocking grades in this game in particular, their best grade was Matthew McCoy, right? 55%. Okay. Markel Bell, 36%, which is awful. You go to Pass Pro, and Carson Beck was only under pressure on 2 out of his 33 dropbacks. And you got Bell at almost 90%, which is insanely good. Brockermeyer, 80.7%, insanely good. Mawanoa pushing 80%, insanely good. Cooper at 70, which is fine. And then Okunlola and McCoy, who are the weak links on the offense, were at 60.5 and 54, which are, below average. But it's just such a massive dichotomy. Look it up, Gary. It's not DYKE. And they need to figure out why this is, because if you can't establish the run consistently, your offense is going to sputter, which is what has happened this year. That's your answer to me. Is they're a run-based offense. They're a punch-you-in-the-face run game offense. And they haven't been consistently able to do it. So when that's your identity, that's what Mario Cristobal is making your identity.
You might be making a good point, and maybe they haven't adjusted to it.
I think their identity should have been different looking back at it now from game one, because it's clear Carson Beck can be an excellent game manager once he understands not to put the ball in harm's way, right? Once he started taking checkdowns and easy passes, he's completing 80% of his passes, throwing 23 completions in a row, He's much more comfortable, especially when he's not under pressure. And that's the line's forte. You can tell it's not an explosive offense. It just isn't. Anyone who says, Miami's offense has been great, he's calling the plays great. If you say that, and then I ask you, is this an explosive offense for Miami? And you say yes, then whatever political party you're in, you're brainwashed by them, right? Because you're just believing whatever people tell you, okay? Because it's clearly not true, okay? We saw what an explosive offense should look like when Cam Ward was running it. And that's when the run game and the pass game both are working. You could do either equally well. When the run game's not working or the pass game isn't working, you're going to get bogged down. That's pretty simple.
Yeah. All right, let me take a moment here and talk a little bit about Modello, because the football season's here, and Canes fans, it is looking like you deserve a Modello, and college football season is Modello season. So reward your full-time fandom with an ice-cold Modello, the official beer of the college football playoff, where the Hurricanes still hope to land here in a few weeks. And the Modello recruiter has been in action all season long, looking to reward full-time fans who give their all for their team. And if you're a member of CaneSport.com, that means you're a full-time fan willing to give all for your team, and that means it's time for your ice-cold rewards. So some things in life, they're just meant for each other. Peanut butter and jelly, macaroni and cheese, and Modello and college football. So you live and breathe college football, and that makes you a full-time fan. That means you deserve a Modello. So go grab yourself a Modello today and stay game day ready throughout whatever the season leads us to after next week's Pittsburgh game. How about that? Let's leave it at that. And Modello certainly made a big mark on the college football fans across America this season at all different levels. And I congratulate them on a great marketing campaign. They've really done a nice job. All right. So we'll be talking more about the Pittsburgh game as the week goes forward. And Pittsburgh looked very good in beating Georgia Tech on Saturday. And this is going to be a monster game for the Hurricanes. And this game, honestly, is going to define the season. If they end up with 3 ACC losses, there's not going to be any sugarcoating anything. It's going to be a disappointment. I'm sure, Matt, you won't have any problem calling it. I mean, I couldn't call it. If they lose to Pittsburgh and finish with 3 ACC losses with this team that they had this year, I couldn't call it anything else. This is a big, massive game for Miami. Good break. They made the game at noon. So it'll be 40 degrees maybe instead of 30 degrees. But Miami's going to have to go up there. They're going to have to have an offensive game plan with 4 quarters of offense in it this week. Okay, not 2, 4. They're going to need 4 quarters of offense to go win up there at Pittsburgh. And they're going to have to pack mental toughness, because it is going to be cold and it's going to be elements that they're not used to. And they're going to have to be able to overcome that and fight through it. So we'll talk a little bit more about the Pitt game as we move forward on the week. Other things that are on the website, we have a lot of recruiting coverage. We have stories today on Cannon Pickett and Israel Biggs. Make sure you check that out. Canes basketball played Delaware State hoops, if you want to call it a game, yesterday at the Watsco Center. We've got coverage of that. Miami basketball building towards their next big test, which is Thursday night against BYU in Atlanta. We're going to have multiple opportunities today to speak to Mario Cristobal. We'll have him first thing in the morning. And we'll have that story for you on the website. And then we'll have him in the afternoon as well. So lots of Mario in store today. We'll also have sessions with Shannon Dawson and Corey Heatherman. So that will be on the website later on today as the day goes forward. But that's going to conclude it for today for Good Morning CaneSport. We thank you so much for starting out your morning with us. For Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Have a great day. We'll see you next time, everybody.